The sphere brush is very closely related to the 2D paintbrush. The major distinction is that the sphere brush, as you might imagine, is going to create a line of spheres along your stroke. Let me undo. You can increase your spacing. So it's placing just spheres. One thing it is especially good at is if you want to quickly place things like eyeballs, you can just simply tap and it's going to place its center on the surface of the object that you click on. Even though I'm on a different layer, you can use the on-plane functionality to designate exactly where you want to place this. So without me having to place this and then use the transform tool or the pose tool to move it back further into the eye socket, I can use the on-plane functionality to do that for me while I create this. In the tool options panel, right here, the type of surface, you can designate whether you want to place it along a specific plane or do you want to make the starting point defined by your right mouse button. In this case, I'll choose that. I'm going to right click, and I have the ability to use my plus and minus key on the number pad to move it forward or backwards. One option I have is to ghost the head layer and walk this plane backwards. However, in order to be able to pick the surface and then walk it back, I need to enable this option in this drop list menu for ghosting as to how 3D Coat responds to the surface when I am working over a ghosted volume. In this case, I want to be able to pick, but I don't necessarily want to be able to act on it. So I'll right click again, and now I want to hit the plus key to move it further back. I think that's appropriate. So let's go ahead and click, and that's going to create our sphere, but you can see it's much further into the eye socket than the other. Let me undo and I'll replace that. Okay. So I can uncheck on plane, or actually I'm going to leave it on and I'm going to change it to the X and Y plane. If you want, you can turn the X and Y plane on from the view menu under grid placement. Let's turn that on. We can also enable snapping, snap to 3D grid. You could use this to align the spheres. Let's turn spacing off. Let's drag across this section. Looks good. I'm going to start here and turn the on-plane functionality off. Turn snapping off. So yeah, if you just experiment with this tool for a little while, you can find some very creative uses for it. Let's look at tapering. If I were to use one of these draw modes that are affected by brush pressure, if I press hard and lighten up a little bit, I can taper this way, but it's a bit more harder control, and also you can enable steady stroke. That may make it a little bit easier. But I find using brush pressure alone to taper doesn't really afford you a lot of control. So let's turn tapering on next to the radius parameter. I'll turn that on, and we want to estimate the length of the stroke that we're going to be using. If we want this to taper at the beginning and the end, then we would adjust our profile to something like that. You have to cut off the end there, but you can see you can create sort of a muscle type of fiber if you need. The sphere tool does not respect brush alphas. I'm going to use something like this, and I'll turn spacing off. You can see it's still just creating spherical volumes, whereas the 2D paint brush is quite a bit different. All right, so that's a quick look at using the sphere tool in 3D Code's Voxel Sculpting toolset. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.